And what I've seen is that when lawyers raise their hand and say, you know what, I am out of here, that is a stressful time for them. It's a stressful time for everybody involved. And even if it's your idea, it's still stressful. And under that stress, you find out who people really are. Their character rises to the surface. Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share how we have built our family law practice from 0 to 25 attorneys and over $15 million in revenue, all in the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working with hopes that you can take that and you can recontextualize it and shorten your success curve. My name is Jeff Hughes and I'm your host. And today we're talking about how a lawyer can go about properly and respectfully firing their own law firm. So a few weeks ago, I did a podcast on law firms separating from or firing their lawyer. That was a problem where that law firm determined that they are no longer a fit with this individual lawyer. So what happens when the lawyer determines they are no longer a fit for that law firm and they decide to move on, which, by the way, that is much more common in a separation scenario for the lawyer to fire the law firm than vice versa. So let me give you some context around this, because I have got to see this happen in our firm over the past 10 years, 30 separate times. So I've been able to find and see some patterns here, and I've seen how people have done this very poorly, and I've seen how some lawyers have done this very, very well and set themselves up for success in the future. So of the 30 attorneys that have left our firm, 5 of them decided they're going to get out of law entirely. 6 of them decided, look, they just do not like family law and they want to get out of family law. 8 of them determined they just didn't like our firm. They didn't like Sterling Law. They didn't like our processes. They didn't like fixed fee. They didn't like me. Whatever the case was, they decided they wanted to leave the firm. 8 of them determined that they have found a better opportunity for themselves elsewhere. And 3 of them left for some other reason that don't categorize in these ones above, like a health issue in one case, for example. So what I've seen is that there are really 3 fundamental things for lawyers to keep in mind as they go through this process of leaving the firm. One is maintain the big picture. See the big picture, see your future, not where you're at just in the moment of separating and leaving that law firm. So first off, a story to kind of put this in a little better context is we had a terrific lawyer that worked for us. And this lawyer said, look, I'm out of here. I'm going to go start my own practice. We were bummed to see the lawyer go, but we also understood and respected the fact that they want to control their own destiny, do their own thing, just go start their own firm. And so we were, very happy for them on a personal level for what they were able to do. They gave their 2-week notice. We ran out the 2 weeks. It was all copacetic and friendly, very well. In fact, after they left, I told our intake leader, I said, look, any leads that come in that we can't serve, family law leads that we would keep, any non-family law things or even family law matters that we don't want those cases, send all of those leads and referrals over to this lawyer. And that was a lot at that time. That was like 5 to 7 a day of potential leads that would go over that. Most of them were in some sort of a criminal action or traffic related matter that this lawyer wanted to do. He wanted those cases. And we said, send those over to this lawyer. That's how it went for a couple weeks. And then I found out that this lawyer set their legal entity up prior to leaving our practice, which that's totally good. You should do that to make sure you have everything set up and going. The problem was that was the point in time in my mind where they made the decision to leave. And they took an additional 10 consults for new incoming clients for our practice with hopes that they can get those clients retained and then take them with them as they left. Now, legally, you can do that, all right? And I know that the typical lawyer arguments be like, that's legal, you can do that. The client can choose wherever they want to go. Yes, but relationally, that was a colossal mistake, because what it said to us is, I'm going to leverage your firm's resources to start my practice, and I'm going to ignore the fact that you spent time and attention and other resources to get those clients in the door, marketing expenses, intake expenses, and so forth. And I'm going to try to siphon them off right away when I leave. That to me was super disappointing, and it certainly did not keep the big picture in mind. And what I've seen is that when lawyers raise their hand and say, you know what, I am out of here, that is a stressful time for them. It's a stressful time for everybody involved. And even if it's your idea, it's still stressful. And under that stress, you find out who people really are. Their character rises to the surface. And I could point to lawyers who went through that stress and they managed it like a champ. It increased our respect, my personal respect and admiration for them. And I've seen many lawyers do the reverse of that, where they oddly and puzzlingly get myopic and short-sighted on their big picture, their reputation, their future referrals that may come, and or just doing the right thing. And it's so important to keep the big picture in mind, because it's a small world and it's a small family law bar out there, and you are going to bump into former colleagues and again in the future, either against them or on the same side as them, or even as a referral source. And that is so foolish when lawyers get myopic and they just get greedy in some aspects, and they just do what they feel like they have to do to get the best scenario in the short term to move on, rather than keeping the big picture in mind. So my encouragement here is to honor your employer, even if, and especially if you just don't like them. Honor them anyway. You will never ever regret doing the right thing. You will never do that. And if you do the right thing in the aggregate over time in life, yes, there will be a few instances where you get, quote, burned. But overall, you will end up so much further ahead if you do the right thing. All right, secondly, on executing the process, there's really 5 components to executing a professional exit process well for lawyers to consider. First is look at your employment agreement, if you have one. And obviously, you can resort to the letter of that agreement, and you can be rigid about the letter of it. But I encourage you to go one step further. I encourage you to honor the spirit of the agreement as well. Do the right thing, honor the spirit of the agreement. Don't fall back on the letter of it. Do the right thing for the spirit of the agreement, and expect your employer to do the right thing for you as well. Second is be professional through that. Don't delve into emotion, stay above board. Pretend like everything you do is going to be memorialized forever for someone to see and to study, and a case study for leaving well. Third is schedule a meeting. Just put it on the calendar. Say you want to talk about whatever you think you need to, however you need to express that. If they push you on that, just say, you know what, I'd rather just wait to talk about that in person. And then show up at the meeting prepared. Be prepared. Have a formal letter of resignation. Give that to your employer. Be short and sweet. Honor them with the truth as to why you're leaving, even if that truth is hard for them to hear, even if they get all bowed up and defensive. Say it professionally, say it kindly, say it in a spirit of love, but be honest about that. Fifth is think through your contingencies. What happens if they do walk you out the door? What are you going to do? Think through all of those things in advance and have your contingencies, but have the expectation that they're going to reciprocate your professionalism. Also, what I have also discovered around lawyers leaving our firm is that for many of those, even though they said, hey, I'm out of here, I'm going to quit, I'm firing your firm, the reality is most of the time, it was going to happen the other way around anyway, so it's pretty much mutual. Not all the time, for sure, not in all 30 cases, but in many of those, a surprising number of those, they were on some sort of improvement plan. We were watching, we just kind of got the feeling they were not going to be long-term. You can just tell. Over time, you start to be able to sniff this out pretty clearly. They're doing little things that show they're getting ready to move on. So, okay, the aftermath, the third aspect of leaving a firm well. Run through the tape. And here's what I mean by that. You go and have your meeting. You say, I'm leaving. Here's my 2-week notice. And I believe attorneys should give a 30-day notice. I think that's the right thing to do as a professional, give 30-day notice. Whatever that notice turns out to be, work hard right through the end. Do the right thing. Honor your employer. Honor your colleagues. Don't pick fights. Work hard to finish up cases, even if those are cases that you could sandbag and take into your next practice. Do the right thing, run through the tape, and here's why. People remember how you left far more than they remember what you did while you were there. It's that final few days that stick out to their mind forever, and you want that to be a positive experience for them and for you. And I know it's hard because you're thinking about your next life, your next practice, your next firm or whatever, and you want to set that up well too. But remember where you're at present. Don't do a poor exit. Don't slag up, don't disappear. Show up at your meetings, do all of your stuff and finish well. Because there are so many lawyers I can look back that they gave their notice and they expected us to pay them out through their 2-week notice, and we did, but they disappeared. They were nowhere to be found. And that was always a head scratcher to me. Why would you do that? I remember you for how you left now, rather than what you did while you're here. And finally, let me close on this point. Be understanding of your law firm's perspective on you leaving. Remember that the spirit of the relationship needs to be honored. And for example, law firms that, especially in law firm to client individuals, people law firms, especially those, spend money in marketing, they spend money in intake, they spend money in client support to bring a client in. They've got more than just your costs baked into that. And remember that, remember their investment. So they may feel a little salty about you taking a bunch of clients out the door because of their investment into that. That's how I've looked at it, is we put so much into these clients getting them in the door. We certainly are going to honor what the law says that they can go, and then we need to refund appropriately, and we do that. But there is still some negotiation that goes on between the law firm and the lawyer, and just keep that in mind. Try to understand the other side's perspective as well, and expect them to understand your side as well. And it's best to give 51% and expect 49% in return. That's the best policy, I believe, whenever you're working through those really sticky and sometimes contentious sort of separations whenever you leave. And that has to do with client money, client retainers, client, all of those, all that goes involved with taking clients with you whenever you go. So I hope that's helpful to you. If you're considering leaving your firm, or you will in one day, the reality is everybody leaves the law firm over time. Even the founders, they will leave it over time. Eventually, time always wins. Either you are involuntarily escorted out, or you are voluntarily escorted out. And involuntarily could also mean death included in there. So hope that's helpful to you. If you find that what I've delivered here is helpful, and that it means the world to me if you would share content with other people, like and subscribe, all those sort of things that for social media, so more people can benefit from what I'm trying to put out there. Have a great day.